Good morning to all of you. Welcome to our new facility. A couple of housekeeping items real quick. Restrooms are right there, right behind the green wall. Some of the directors don't really care for the green paint, but our general manager put his foot down and used that green.
Matches the table.
Just so you all know, we tape all of our meetings. So this meeting will be on tape. So unless someone has an objection to that, we're going to go ahead and go forward with that. I see no objections, so we're going to go forward with that. Again, welcome to our new facility. We decided to set this up this way because if we'd have tried to do this at our old building, we wouldn't have all fit. But we wanted to do this courtroom style setting so the counselor could feel comfortable sitting.
Don't get me started.
I'm not a judge, John. I pass no judgment. So, again, welcome. Why don't we just start down here with John, go around the room and introduce ourselves. So,
My name's John Stevens. I'm on the Costa Mesa City Council.
Paul Schomburger, General Manager, Mesa Water District.
I'm Bob Booton with the Sanitary District.
Ethan Tamika, President of Mesa Water.
Art Carrier, the Sanitary District.
Jim Fernan, Sanitary District.
and of course, I'm Mike Schaefer, President of Sanitary District.
I'm Marlene Schaefer, Sanitary District, no relative.
Not claiming.
Scott Carroll, General Manager, Costa Mesa Sanitary District.
Rick Francis, Assistant City Manager, Costa Mesa.
Tom Hatch, Costa Mesa City Manager.
Alan Mansour, Costa Mesa City Council.
Thank you again all for being here. So we'll just dive into the agenda and probably the big item on the agenda this morning. Scott, you want to start us off with that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. So the board directed staff to look at possibly putting in some restrooms, 24/7 restrooms in the city. And so staff did some research and taking into consideration the concerns that I know a lot of people have, especially the city would have as far as concealments, safety issues, transit issues, in the restrooms. And so we did some research what other cities were doing. We looked at San Francisco. They installed about 20 of these so-called self-cleaning restrooms, and they found out they were a big headache. They were attracting a lot of drug use, prostitution, because they're concealed. You can't see what's going on in there, and they weren't really self-cleaning, so they had to hire people to clean their restrooms. So that, I knew that wasn't going to work, and so I came along with the city of Portland created, and they patented this restroom, and you got pictures of it with your agenda packet. It's called Portland Blue, and it's a really simple in design. And what makes this one so unique is that, as you can see, it's really not totally private. As you can see on the bottom, you can see if there's more than one person in the restroom. You can, if they're smoking anything, you can definitely tell if they're smoking something or what's cooking, if they're hanging out in there. It's really easy to clean. As you see in the third picture, it's really basic stuff. It's just basically a toilet with toilet dispensers, and that's it, really. From my understanding, cleaning it, you just got to wash it down. It's pretty simple. The downside is expensive. It's about $100,000, $50,000 to install. I think San Diego was trying to install them, but I think they were having a problem. The trick is going to be finding location, an appropriate location, because you got ADA issues. You got make sure it's it's water accessibility, sewage accessibility. So we got to take all that into consideration. I think that's where San Diego was having problems. Our thought maybe put a couple at Lions Park. I know the city was having some concerns with the restrooms there. Keep the existing restrooms closed because of the issues the city was having, and we try a couple of these at Lions Park, and maybe all three agencies can kind of pitch in and contribute to the program and see how it works. And so the board decided to bring this to the Liaison committee for discussion, and that's what we're here today, to hear what everyone thinks about it and go from there. So that's it. Yes, Vice President.
To kind of preface what you just said, I don't know how I came upon this, but I was looking at one of these, gosh, 6 months ago or whatever it was. And, you know, it occurred to me that this homeless thing is not going to go away. It's getting worse. And for us to ignore the basic human functions is not healthy. I don't think. I mean, I think that these. Let me mention that Dan Worthington, who used to be on our board, and I think some of you guys know him, he brought this up 10 years ago, 10 or 12 years ago, and it was the San Francisco version, and which is much more expensive than this thing. But our intent was not to dictate or to, you know, we just wanted to explore the possibility of this from a humanitarian standpoint. And we understand that for this thing to work at all, it's got to be a joint effort from the city and water district and the sanitary district. So that's, you know, as it kind of unveiled, it seemed like we were trying to ramrod it a little bit, but we really, that wasn't our intent at all. So we understand we can't do this, or this city can't do this without the cooperation of all three agencies, and that's kind of where we're coming from. So, but if we find that it's prohibitive cost-wise, or, you know, it's everybody is afraid of it becoming a magnet for, you know, poor homeless, that's another story. But in my opinion, the homeless thing is going to get worse. It's going to get worse. I know that Michelle Steele spoke to ISDOC yesterday, and they're going through with that Kramer building in Anaheim, and they're buying it, and they're going to retool it for homeless people. I don't know. You know, they'll have some. They'll have somebody else running. It won't be the government. It'll be the nonprofit. But, you know, we better come to grips with this, because with the decline of the middle class, you know, and no matter what you think, that's what's happening right now. More and more people are going to be out on the street, and I think that's part of our responsibility is to react to that. That's it for me.
I've got a question, probably for Scott. So I hear what you're saying, Jim, about the homelessness and kind of a humanitarian reason why this is coming forth. But are we finding evidence of a sanitation issue? You know, where you know there's people are relieving themselves in public, and it's creating a legitimate problem with sanitation in our community.
Well, I can tell you based on our experience in our old building, on 19th Street, I personally saw people go in our parking lot, pull their drawers down and go right there.
Right. That's right.
So it's very common.
It's common, and you're seeing it, and you're concerned in your role as, you know, your jurisdiction of wanting waste to go where it needs to go in a sanitary way, right?
Well, that's a good part of it.
So, apart from, you know, you've seen it, is there any type of empirical data or anything that's been done, any studies on that issue?
No studies done. No.
Well, we haven't conducted any, but there could be some out there, and I don't know.
Well, I think you're referring in the city or just in general?
No, in your jurisdiction, the city. I guess,
Yeah, no, we've not.
All right.
I'd love to hear from Rick, because you're involved with the homeless and what's going on.
Yeah, we come across evidence of the public defecation and urination pretty much on a daily basis. And one of the challenges that it poses primarily for Raja's team is that they're really not equipped to deal with that. It's considered biohazardous.
Right.
And in fact, I think coming up on February 15th, they're going to be going through more training on how to handle this stuff. So what we're finding is certainly around existing restroom facilities. So for example, Lions Park, since the restrooms closed, they do relieve themselves, kind of in that area surrounding, or in the bushes in front of the west substation. It's really all over the place, and some of these folks just have no qualms about relieving themselves in front of whoever might be around, and so it's very commonplace.
Just a quick question, do we have an inventory of all the current public facilities? I mean, we have, most of the parks have restrooms already current. I mean, have we mapped those out, kind of see, okay, what area would this be?
Yeah, Roger did take a look at that. So we do have restrooms, public restrooms in various places. In most parks that are of good size have a restroom. The ones that are locked are at Lions Park and Wilson Park due to a variety of different criminal issues and difficult issues that we're dealing with at those particular parks. In Lions Park, the library facility has a restroom that's functioning, the downtown recreation center, and I think that's it at Lions Park. The baseball field, when it's operating, has a restroom that supports the baseball field in Lions Park.
And then would this be to upgrade those, or is this to add additional facilities?
So if someone's going into the library and using the library, they have that restroom available. If they're using the downtown recreation center, that restroom's available. If they're using the baseball facilities, that restroom's available. The neighborhood community center, while we do have obviously a major project, and that's a challenge with this concept at Lions Park, because much of the area around the NCC and even in the Plain area is going to be fenced off as a staging and a construction site for the tearing down of the neighborhood community center and that operation. But the neighborhood community center right now, well, as of January 1, it doesn't have a restroom anymore, but it was operating. People could go into the neighborhood community center and use the restroom in there. It just wasn't as convenient for homeless that were in the park. They would rather just use the restroom that was right next door. But again, we had a lot of challenges, and I don't know, this design obviously is clearly more visible through it, but still there's a lot of challenges out there, obviously, we know, with mental health and all kinds of issues. And the park restrooms have been challenging to keep clean, keep free from vandalism and a variety of things, and so that would be a challenge. And then the park in general closes at dusk for the most part, and so if this was in a park, we'd have to change. If this was a 24/7 restroom in a park, we'd have to change the operation of the park. You'd have to allow people to be there overnight.
What type of feedback are we getting from the business community about the people going to the bathroom in businesses?
But Rick has most of the details, but in short, there have been problems over the years that folks going into private businesses and using restrooms. But
Sure. The most impacted is certainly the Costa Mesa courtyards, which is where the CVS and Venmo and the stores down there, given their proximity to Lions Park. They're extremely impacted. The CVS manager and Venmo folks and a number of the smaller shops, the Rubios, we've met several times with kind of an all-hands meeting with their tenants. They do have a substantial number of issues with folks coming into their facilities and kind of clogging things up, for lack of a better term. They've expressed to the city kind of their frustration once we closed the restrooms at Lions Park, that they're feeling unfairly burdened by it. And so we definitely had that feedback from the business community. I think to balance it out, though, one of the things that we've emphasized is that the city is not 100% responsible necessarily for these issues. It's the community is responsible for these issues. Okay? So we kind of want to balance influence the conversation a little bit here.
You know, in that same vein, Rick, with businesses, you know, it's been talked about the 3 agencies splitting the cost of it. Couldn't we also consider businesses participating? If we have businesses that are impacted the way you're talking, maybe if we get down to this or if we get into the discussion, the business community could take part of that. And I know this, you know, being in a marketing business myself, I noticed on the front of this, the picture of the rose, which is Portland's symbol, obviously. I could almost see businesses participating in advertising on these things. I mean, there's got to be a trade. They'll spend the money if they get something for it. And I've seen in Europe these kind of things where they have businesses advertising on it. So that could be a component.
I guess it depends on the type of business. A lot of the businesses, we've asked them, like some of the larger shopping centers have their own security. They were having all kinds of issues with people loitering, panhandling, and all that. Most of the larger retail facilities have their own security, but what we also saw was a lot of the strip malls and stuff who were complaining about loitering and panhandling. What we tried to do is float the idea of kind of a business security district where folks in close geographic proximity could all kind of pool their resources together to buy security that would patrol several properties. The economy of scales on that we think is doable. What we found, even as we met with several groups and tried to get them to buy into it, is they just didn't want to pay for it. They were very reluctant to pay for it because, in large part, Mike, their perception was, no, that's a city responsibility. And so part of this is perception that they believe that this is a government responsibility, not a private business responsibility. Therefore, we want nothing to do with that. Now, where you may have more success is you may approach some of the larger corporations around the community, Sagerton family, some of our larger companies on the north end of town, and say, you know, as part of a comprehensive approach to addressing homelessness, we need resources to fund a variety of things. This could be one of those things if we chose to do it that way.
Goes to Lisa Chargers across one of these.
Right after I was elected, before I was sworn in, one of the first things I did was meet with the Chamber of Commerce. And the first thing we talked about was homelessness. I encouraged them to come to your Thursday meetings. I don't know whether they had brought anybody, but they were interested in that. I think we should follow up. I think that, you know, if and I'm sure Alan has experienced this too, when you speak with business owners, particularly business owners on harbor and so forth, within the first 10 minutes of any substantive conversation with the business owner, they talk about homelessness. It's a concern. And I think it's legitimate for Rick, Tom, and the city to say, okay, well, let's all work on this together as a community. And so, you know, maybe the way to go is maybe there's ways that you reach out to, through the Chamber of Commerce or something like that, to the whole community, rather than just the people that are like right around the situation. You can kind of spread it out. One idea that I had, I don't mind floating it here, is, you know, for years we've talked about how the business license fee is very low in Costa Mesa. I'm not saying we increase it, but maybe, like, you know, when you go to the market, you go to Vaughn's and they say, do you want $1 to go to some charity or whatever? Just put a box and say, do you want $10, whatever, or do you want some amount to go directly toward dealing with homeless issues? It's totally voluntary, but it's an opportunity when you do that to reach out to the broader business community, give them an opportunity to voluntarily participate financially in the solution.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mark. Well, one, I appreciate you bringing up this issue. You know, this is clearly what some would see as a practical or immediate need for everybody. but there obviously are many aspects to the homeless issue. As the Sand District thought about being involved in other ways as well, for example, not just funding this, but I know as a city, I know Rick Francis is involved with sometimes meeting with Trellis and other groups, or church groups, business community, and really thinking of ways, because you mentioned that this problem is getting worse, and I do see it getting worse. So I want to look for an overall solution. I think we're always going to have homeless people, but are there ways that we can get involved, or is the Sand District willing to get involved in ways of more of a prevention side, like helping people up and out of their situation? Has the Sand District considered any of those options, or being more involved that way, or attending Trellis, or meeting with other community groups to find other ways to be involved as well?
Yeah, we haven't discussed it, but I think we would be willing to do that. I mean, we're an active participant in the community, and I think we could. I mean, nothing prevents us from doing that, so yeah.
If I can, in Europe, and I've been there a couple times, but this kind of restroom facility there's a million of them over in Europe, in every major city. And, you know, it's part of their culture, I guess. You would call it that, but somehow they seem to deal with it as just an everyday situation. And it's hard for me to believe that we can't, at least on a trial basis, you know, establish this for public use as well as, you know, homeless or whatever. But and I understand what some of the things that were brought up, that there certainly are challenges to it, and we don't want to create any kind of magnet thing. But you know, this is a step in the right direction, as far as I'm concerned, with the construction aspects of this facility. It's going to mitigate, I think, some of that problem. So, you know, Europe's had them for. Well, I was over there 40 years ago, and they were there. So it can be done.
Well, you know, even gas stations, they're locking the doors. You know, you get gas, you get a key to use the facility. You know, I'm sure they could line up too with what we're discussing. But I think the main thing is this should be a shared service. It shouldn't be something that's just one of us taking care of it. Like, it's not all the city, it's not all the owner, it's not all us, but a shared kind of service. Whether we form an ad hoc committee of some type and discuss it and bring it back to another liaison meeting, because there's a lot you can do on this or whatever. But I think we need to, you know, come to some kind of terms that it's here.
Well, if we do that, I think we need to incorporate what Alan's talking about with the whole solution, not just the restrooms, but the whole solution. Michelle Steele was talking about it yesterday at our special districts meeting and what they're doing in the county, and it needs to be an overall thing, like Alan said.
But she said she's going to be putting them in categories. In other words, there's the emotional ones, there's the ones that actually, you know, they're just really schizo and you have to handle that type of situation. And there's some that you can really help and find out their homes and people that have got relatives. And they're also going to take showers and put showers there for them as well. So,
Right. Now, I understand there's many categories of homeless. Some do not want to be housed. Some have mental issues or drug issues or whatever. But there are some that are truly down on their luck, and they do want help up and out. And that's one of the areas I think would be good to focus on.
Well, the reality is we're focusing quite a bit on just that. You know, the city took a unique step 4 or 5 years ago to dedicate city resources in the form of employees, which was never done before in this county, who actually serve as outreach workers. We've got a small army, a small team that does that every day. And some of their accomplishments are pretty remarkable when you consider the difficulty of dealing with this particular population, because as different folks have said, there are different strata of homeless. And we, in the last 4 years since we started keeping records in January 2013, have either housed or reconnected folks back to their places of origin with either family or services, about 220 people that are not on our streets today due to our efforts. In just 2016 alone, that was about 87, 89 people. So,
That's great.
So we are doing substantial work to address those folks who do want to help. The more difficult population are the ones that we call service resistant. They don't want our help. You can offer them beachfront property overlooking the ocean, and they won't go. You can offer them housing in another community, but they feel an affinity to this community, and they won't go to Anaheim or Fullerton, even if they have a roof over their heads. So those are some of the struggles that we are dealing with. But there is a lot going on countywide to focus in on this issue. And so I don't want anyone to have the impression that much is not being done, much is being done, and there's more to come. Specifically in our realm in Costa Mesa, it's more of the service-resistant folks, because our team does a really good job of sifting out the ones who truly want the help. And I would say for the most part, we call those our low-hanging fruit. We've addressed their issues for the most part. It's the ones that are so addicted on drugs, it's quite frankly the rehab home dropouts who are strung out on heroin and all kinds of other things that ROPS folks deal with all the time. They're the most difficult group.
I'm sorry. You did go.
Thank you. Rick, I know you touched on this a little bit, but can you or Tom either more go into a little more depth? What is the action? What does the city spend in terms of number of, for example, number of police officers, number of code enforcement officers, number of staff, participation, and actual dollars spent, and where some of that money has gone to address this issue so far? And if you can quantify that in as specific as you can.
Sure. Yeah, we looked at that as part of this, and it's been a kind of an ongoing, growing effort as we move forward. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we were dealing with issues, but it wasn't really collective, and it wasn't coordinated in any way. But as we look at it right now, just the direct costs, the direct staff that are assigned to this effort, it's $1 million a year in city funds that we're putting towards that. Beyond that, that doesn't include park rangers and the maintenance personnel and other folks that are working on the effort. So it's a substantial amount of money. And part of my little frustration a little bit is we're in the trenches every week, and if folks want to join in, we don't own this topic at all. And so we need help, and we're in, and we can look at ways to move forward even better. And we wrestle with these issues in terms of giving people proper restrooms, but if it's not safe and if someone's going to shoot up heroin and all kinds of other problems, where's your responsibility for safety versus that? And this is awful stuff in terms of wrestling with those issues that are very important to people in terms of their dignity and their ability to just get through the day. So on a daily basis, we're struggling with those issues. We don't have all the answers. We'd love folks, again, every Thursday, 10 a.m., conference room 1A at City Hall, we're willing to talk about this.
The other thing you all should consider doing, this is everybody if you haven't done it. During the campaign, I did a ride-along. Mike Brumbaugh, you know Mike. So he's part of the crack team, the army, if you will. And I went on a ride-along in the morning, and he goes and he kind of meets with the various homeless people, and and assesses them, helps them, and reaches out to them, and kind of make sure that they're not in the golden truffle dining area when is there. And so it's really eye-opening, and it's eye-opening in how he specifically deals with the situation, with such knowledge and compassion and follow-up. It's really something to see. So consider doing that. He'd be happy to take you under light on. He said he offered it up to everybody, and very few people have taken him up on it, but you'd learn a lot.
Yeah.
Just one day for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, and oftentimes he'll partner with one of our outreach workers.
Yes.
And to see them in tandem. And, you know, obviously, my being a city employee, we do have restrictions about what we can and can't do on private property. We can't force people to move off private property. It's not our job to be private security for these folks. But we do note, in fact, a clear example, just right down the street at 660 Baker, the last couple of weeks we've been dealing with up to 13 squatters in vacant commercial property. They've taken over the place. And so we become aware of it, and Mike's job is to find out who's the property owner, get those people in to talk about figuring out a solution. So they jumped on it, they were very proactive, they hired security right away. They did a walkthrough, I think it was yesterday, Rob, and the private security that they hired initially saw one guy, and then they started hearing doors close in all the vacant units. They notified the PD. We had several police units respond, and Mike Grumbach. They corralled 14 individuals who were all squatting in this building. And so this is what's going on every day.
It creates a fire issue too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just one comment. That my son's a police officer in the city of Irvine, and he says, Dad, he says, if you really want to stir something up, bring up, I guess in Irvine, Rob, I don't know if you know this or not, but apparently they're going to start putting sharps containers in the public restrooms in Irvine. Have you ever heard that? He says, hey, do you want them to leave their needles out in the park? Or should they put them, if they have that shirt? So obviously, from the sanitary district, we have a very active sharps program. If that ever becomes an issue,
we talk about that because our officers and our garages folks come across that every day.
We partner with your partner. So we give them sharps containers, and when they're out in calls and they see people have needles in their homes, they'll give them a sharp.
Oh, yeah, when we were doing the fish fry at Lions Park, we would open some of the containers in the grounds for the electrical. And you guys know this better than we do. They're full of stuff.
I just want to mention, as President Schaefer said yesterday, Chairwoman Michelle Steele was speaking to special districts, and she did comment and she did commend the city of Costa Mesa for reconnecting homeless to their families. So what your efforts are being recognized on the county level. But I do have a question for you, Rick. Of those homeless people that got their resistance service, do you have an estimate how many of those are out there?
It's hard because it's a very transient population, so they don't respect city boundaries. They come and go. The rough estimate is service resistant. We're probably between 80 and 120, so ballpark.
All right, we have other items. If there's any, we'll leave it up to the three chiefs to.
I guess if we speak on behalf of staff, we need some direction from elected officials.
Absolutely.
What do you want some direction on this? We need some direction. What from elected officials?
And just to add on Portland Lewis, one of the other things to consider is I've been doing some research on this, and Scott's right as far as cost is concerned. It's about $90,000 to $100,000 to secure one of these. Where some cities were finding more challenges with cost is in the installation. One of the issues that a couple of cities commented on is building codes for the state of Oregon are very different from building codes for the state of California. So there were some ADA issues, there were some problems with the width of the doorways that had to be reconfigured, and that drove up costs, especially in San Diego. There's also some concern about where you place these things. One of the sites in San Diego, they've since shut down because what they saw was a 130% increase in crime in the immediate vicinity of the loo. Once it was installed, it was just a bad location is what they said. So there are things to consider. You've got to connect this to your sewer system. It's not just plopping the thing in anywhere. It takes some effort to do it. So.
I would like to see, at least from our standpoint, maybe some representation or some visits to the these task force meetings that the city is doing. I think we have a pretty good idea of what we want to see from a toilet standpoint, but I think back to Alan's point is maybe we ought to participate or at least go to some of these meetings to get a bigger picture on the issue. That's what I would recommend we do at this point.
Yeah, I think that's really good direction, is to, get us immersed in the issue a little bit more and see where the opportunities are as we go forward. And then I do want to thank the city for all your efforts in this. You guys truly are a leader in Orange County, and probably put more effort and have more success than a lot of other places. So you guys are doing a really good job. As Supervisor Steele, this was a county-wide talk she was given, and she gave a good amount of that towards your guys' efforts here.
So it's every Thursday at what time?
10 o'clock, conference in
10
1A.
o'clock?
White, I just want to add one thing. I agree with Alan. The homeless issue is homes. And, I watch HGTV. My wife watches this porn program.
We don't want to end your stand-up comedy. You know why?
So that's a fact. And then, those little homes she watches on there are $20,000. This is then they have to install it. I don't know where you find space to put, a lot of these little homes. They're cheap at twice the price compared to this. This is a solution to part of the problem, but the problem is they don't have homes.
Okay, we're going to move to item 2, our closed caption TV pilot program that we're doing with our
Thank you, Mr. President. So, about 10 years ago, the district implemented the sewer lateral assistance program, and the intent of the program was really to be proactive, to encourage residents to be proactive about their sewer laterals and CCTV it and do necessary repairs to avoid any kind of possible SSOs. And what we found out over the years is it's more of a reactive type program where residents are using the program to, if they have emergencies, and we will reimburse them up to $1,000. But what our biggest concern was that what we were finding is that some of these plumbers were taking advantage of homeowners, and they were doing work up to $10,000 that wasn't even necessary, and especially senior citizens. They're taking advantage of senior citizens, and it concerned us greatly. And so we took a step back and we said, well, let's go back to drawing board. What can we do to implement a proactive program that to have people look at the sewer laterals? And so we came up with this. We call it it's a pilot program, it's a CCTV program, a closed circuit television program, where we will pay a plumber $125 to $195 to CCTV someone's lateral. And then they give us that video back. My staff will review the video, and then we make recommendations to the homeowners what to do, what kind of action to do. Now they have that with them. Now they can go get 3 bids and then find the lowest possible cost. So far, we CCTV'd about 50 homes, and I would say 98% of them, it's all roof intrusions. It's all roof intrusions. And the recommendations usually has been, hydrojet, install a 2-way clean out, and some instances are liners, and the plumber will put a price on it. But the good news is that they don't need to do it right now, but they at least have that information, and they can go out and get some bids and get appropriate cost. The controversy about this, the little controversy about this program is that right now it's a pilot program, and we're only limiting to 3 plumbers. I think some of the plumbers have approached the city council about that, and the way we approached it is that we went out and reached about 20 plumbers that we've done business with, and we talked about this program, and they all seemed interested about it. And so once they seemed interested, we sent them information, because there are certain criteria that the plumbers have to meet as far as the CCTV. Obviously it has to be audio on the video. It has to show the length of how long the video is going. It has to be very clear and visual, because sometimes we get video we just can't read them. It's useless to us. So they have to meet these kind of criteria. So we talked to these 20 plumbers. 3 of them reached back to us, said, yeah, we're in this program. So to have a kind of a control of the program and see how it works, we limited the 3 plumbers. There's one plumber out there he's hustling. I mean, that's Mr. He's going out there and knocking on doors and, hey, I'll give you a free CCTV. And I think it's making some of the other plumbers upset with that. But our goal is to complete this in March. We'll present the findings to the board in March, and then seek directions to continue this program in the next fiscal year, and then we'll eliminate the original SLAP program, and we'll just keep this program as a proactive program. So that's where we're at now. Can I answer any questions?
Yes, thank you for the update on that. And I had asked to have this put on the agenda today because I've had people express concerns to me about it. And so I had a few questions, which some of them you've addressed, but I wanted to kind of clarify a couple of things. So this is to scan the sewer line to make sure there's no cracks or leaks, correct, to prevent spillage. Okay, I get that, and it's a noble cause. So the sand district is paying up to $125. So was this only offered to 3 plumbers? Did they bid on it, or?
Yes, yeah. We all get information, and we said what would be the price, and we gave a couple options because some people sometimes you have to go through the roof. You know, depending if they don't have a clean out, so that'd be $195. But most.
Wait a minute.
No, I mean, was there a public application process where plumbers could apply to?
We didn't offer it to just 3 plumbers. We made it, like Scott said, we have plumbers coming in, getting permits, doing the technical stuff. So we offered it, or put the program out to about 20 plumbers.
We didn't do it
and 3 responded.
Oh, I see. But is it open? I guess my question, let me rephrase it. Is it open to any plumber to participate in this program?
Not during the pilot.
Not now, not the pilot program. So because we want to have control over the program, we didn't want 100 plumbers out there, and we have really no control over it. So first we wanted to see how it would work, and tweak it a little bit if we need to. And then if the board approves the program on a permanent basis, then we'll do an RFP and we'll open it to all the plumbers. But this pilot program will just limit it to 3 plumbers.
Okay, well, the concern that I'm hearing expressed to me is what you touched on, where I don't know if it's one plumber or numerous, is going out, knocking on doors, soliciting business, saying, hey, I can offer you this service, essentially for free, because he's going to be paid by you guys. Well, that's going to undercut other plumbers. Now, I know you mentioned there may be some plumbers that are taking advantage of people. That could be true of any business, and I think there's ways to remedy that, whether it's Better Business Bureau or whatever. But I think it's also possible that it's hurting other legitimate plumbers who want to offer this service and who are offering, or who may be undercut by the fact that another plumber is subsidized by the sand district. Has any consideration been given to that some of these plumbers may be losing out on business because of that?
Well, yeah, we've discussed it, and I think, again, the whole key to this is, after this trial period, if we collectively decide that this is the program we're going to use, it'll be open to everybody. I guess my response to anybody who says, well, this guy's out knocking on doors, I do that daily. I knock on doors for insurance. And if I can compete against other insurance agents... Yeah,
but you're not being subsidized. Right?
Well, that's true. Yeah, with that said...
Another plumber could knock on the door, but he's going to say, I have to charge you $125. Right. That plumber can say, I can do it for free, essentially, because he's going to be reimbursed by you.
Yeah, no, point well taken. But again, these are all considerations that we'll look at when the trial is over. I mean, in March, when we make a decision on this, we'll use all of this. I'm not trying to undercut anybody. We don't.
No, I understand the noble intent of
yeah. That's what it is. I mean, we wanted to take a look at this because our sewer lateral assistance program can be pretty expensive. And if we can be proactive and get these things scanned and TV early, we won't have to get into bigger repairs.
Mike?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Alan.
Yeah, sorry, just a couple more and I'll wrap this up. You mentioned permits. Do you guys issue permits for this, or I know the city issues permits for a lot of plumbing, construction, and so forth. do you guys also issue permits, or what are the permits for? And do you guys have your own inspectors? Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead. That's
You-
it.
you- you have-
And does that contradict with what the city does, or is it completely separate? Can you-
Any plumbing outside the house is our responsibility, anything inside the house is the city's responsibility. So if they're doing a sewer lateral, they've got to come and get a permit from us, it's $120, and that covers our, basically covers our inspection costs, and some administration costs.
Meaning replacing a sewer lateral?
Yes.
Okay, so the city does not issue any permits for that?
So, if there's work that's in the city right of way, then we get involved also. So if they
Oh.
have to cut into a street or sidewalk and such,
Right.
then there is a permit from the city. And inside the house, it's building permits.
Right, so the sewer lateral, you're talking about basically the front yard, where it goes from the house to the city
Just
street.
getting away in the street.
That's the
Right.
standard.
We're going to have public comments after our agenda. So if you'd like to speak, we'll address you at the end of the.
That comment is correct. Well, hold on, please. Okay, can we clarify that? So
Yes.
the sewer lateral is between the front of the house, and basically the front yard, correct? Up to the city. And
Generally speaking.
That's the standard, so we don't issue permits for that at all?
If it encroaches into the city right of way, then they have to get a city permit.
Sometimes they don't need to cut into the sidewalk or streets, so they don't need to do that, then they just go through us. But if they have to go into the street, and they gotta get like traffic plans and all that stuff, so it depends on kind of what needs to be done.
Yeah, I just looked at the agenda. My last question is about public comments at the end. If it's okay, I'm not going to be able to stay to the whole end. I had asked for these two items because I just wanted a little bit of clarity. If it's okay with everyone, I would like to hear, briefly set a time limit, 2-3 minutes, if there's anyone that has comments or questions, because I think this is an important issue.
Yeah.
If we could ask that at this point,
Sure.
when we're done, and we can take a couple, if that's
Is
okay.
that okay with you? Yeah. All right, then I know we do have one gentleman that
Yes.
still wants to speak, so, John, you had a comment first.
Yeah, well, it occurs to me that I hear what you're saying about the hustler, and how that's the way you do business. But it occurs to me that when you're doing a pilot project, you're trying to kind of get a sample to get some information about whether the project's going to work, and then later you're going to open up that to the greater plumbing community. It kind of, in a sense, you're creating a little protectionism around those three that are participating in the pilot program for the purpose of controlling that. And it seems it's a little bit contradictory to the spirit of a pilot program to then have one or more of those three go out and kind of flood the market. So one thing I would consider is being responsive to the other people that want to participate once this goes live, to say, what information do we need for the pilot program? And let's put some kind of reasonable limits on the activities of the plumbers that are part of that, in fairness to the other plumbers who are going to be able to participate when it goes live. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's well taken. We may decide not to go forward with this program. I mean, we have a lateral assistance program in place now that's working pretty well. So when we finish this program and we compile all the data and the experience, I'm not sure how the five of us are going to vote, whether we're going to go forward with this or continue with our current lateral assistance program. So it'll be open. Bob,
Well, we've had the sewer lateral assistance program probably for 10 years. Monahan has an experience where it cost him $17,000 to go out on the street and look for the whole thing. So Gary and I came up with the program probably in '06. And then we've served a lot of people. What we found out was through that, doing that program, there was a big assist to the homeowners that needed that assistance. But then we garnered a large number of plumbers, and we've set those plumbers down because there were problems starting that system up. There were concerns. So we brought those plumbers in, everyone we knew about, and invited everyone we knew about to the training, and we've done that 2 or 3, 4 different times. So we bring them in, and the program gets renewed, and it gets modified. And, the concept with this program will be exactly the same. Once we understand the problems, we'll implement it potentially, and we'll find more problems, and then we'll go back and we'll do more training. You know, we have interfaced with a number of plumbers in the community in the 10 years that sewer lateral assistance program has been in existence. So most of the plumbers in the city have had an opportunity, you know, to be involved in that program and know who we are and what we do. And we envision the same kind of thing here. You know, once the pilot's done, we'll decide whether we're going to go forward with it and what part of the sewer lateral assistance program it can be or not. And then we'll do training. We'll bring the plumbers in and we'll start off with the policies and procedures, you know, that we understand and know about. We'll train those plumbers. They'll either follow it or not. And then, you know, we'll continue to, it's an iterative program.
I'd like, you probably have about 20,000 connections, you know, out in the community. How many of these pilot program CCTVs have occurred?
And we've done about 50 so far.
50.
Yes.
So we're not really flooding the market with the CCTV program. And we've done 50 of the 20,000 so far.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Bob said most of what I was going to say before me. But what happened was in having this workshops, it was not mandatory. It was up to the plumbers if they wanted to attend it. And if they attend, then they were actually educated on what we were trying to do and how we were going to do it. And I know in my neighborhood, I had it, and I had walked through the whole thing, you know, to see what it was like. Mine was on the roof, and it had to come down to the lawn, so it was interesting. And a lot of my neighbors came to me and asked me, gee, I'm going to have to pay $8,000 for this. How much did you pay? And so that's how I introduced a lot of people to this program. It's been very beneficial. It's just that getting the word out is important for people to understand it. You know, like Ted said, you know, nothing is cast in concrete. It's just more or less up to what we want to do. We were just trying to refine it by doing something like this as a pilot instead of saying blanket the whole city. It made better sense.
All right, then I'm going to, obviously, I forgot your name.
Scott Harrison.
Scott, if you'd go up to the microphone.
Yeah.
We'll give you 3 minutes on your public comment.
I just, this was brought to me by some other associates of mine. I belong to the National PACC, Plumbing Union Cooling Contractors of the state, and our local Orange, San Bernardino, and Riverside County. When I read Costa Mesa Sanitary District's list of what they cover and what they're supposed to be in charge of, if you look under in that writings, it definitely says that your responsibility starts at the point of connection in the street, and your pipe that goes from that point of connection all the way through the street, through the yard, and up to the house is part of the city's, it's not in your jurisdiction, which would put it into the city's jurisdiction. So I would not agree with that this pipe that you're issuing permits on is under your jurisdiction, because if you want to change your charter and say something different, that would be something you can't do. I can tell you that the city of Huntington Beach did change theirs at one point, and they take care of it from the sidewalk out to the point of connection, and then it's still private property from the sidewalk up to the house, and that's still the city, the homeowner's responsibility, and the city would promote inspections at that point. I've been in business for 32 years. I got like 30 business licenses. I've never been involved with the SLAP program, but I never knew to come to the sanitary district to get a permit. It's something unusual. Just was up at the state this past week. We did a legislative day. We had our state board meeting and our national, and I talked to the other guys throughout the state, and very few of them, I think zero, had any programs like this. So you guys are walking out on something new and great. Maybe it's something that would work, but when you got to be careful on, we don't know as contractors that we should come to you. So you got 20 people in the SLAP program, That's probably because we don't know to come full permit. If I was in a full permit on a job, I'd go down to the city. That's just because that's how it is everywhere for us. So that's the comments that I would like to make. On the side of the money, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars you're affecting other people's businesses when a customer's lost. It's not just lost for $100 or $200 or the camera fee. It's the cost of acquisition of a customer and how much that customer might mean to a company over a 10-year period, that it really makes a big difference. So when you're saying this guy's approved by the city, it puts him at a different stature. And believe me, I belong to a lot of manufacturers that recommend my company, and I get a lot of the same stuff, so I know how valuable it is. But that's business to business, not a public entity to business type situation. So I would say that it's a little different. And if you have any questions for me, I'm open, and I didn't pass my card out last time. I sent an email out recently as well, but your guys' email is not listed on your site. You could send individual emails, and I tried to send it as a group one. I sent it to one of your staff. I don't know if you know, but I'm still looking for the information that I asked for at the last meeting, which was how many spills occurred. So,
Make sure Scott has the correct email for you,
Okay.
so that we can get back to you.
perfect.
Okay. Mr. Mosher?
Thank you, President Schaefer. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jim Mosher. I'm a Newport Beach resident, but a sanitary district ratepayer and part of their sewer system. I do not know about the city of Huntington Beach. I do know in Newport Beach for quite a few years, the sewer lateral from the sidewalk to the point of connection in the street is the responsibility of the city there. They pay all the costs and repairs on that part, and the part from the sidewalk, anything from the sidewalk, from the property line into the house is the responsibility of the private homeowner. How the permitting there works, I don't know, because I'm in the sanitary district's sewer system. The comment I wanted to make, though, is there should be no question about where the public comments come, because this liaison committee is a joint meeting of appointed representatives from various local agencies. Therefore, the meeting falls under the Brown Act, and the Brown Act is very clear. The public comment must be invited on every item that is on the agenda before or during the discussion of that agenda item. So that invitation has to be made somewhere. The public comment at the very end, the only reasonable interpretation of that is it's an opportunity for public comment on non-agenda items, which at that point in the meeting you cannot respond to, other than perhaps if you think it has merit, putting it on a future agenda for discussion then. Thank you.
Okay. Item 3, Tom, I guess I'll turn that over to you.
One last.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I'm assuming this pilot program was put in place based on a need or a perceived need. Do we know how many spills there were? I think that was one of the questions that Mr. Harrison had. Or out of the 50 inspections that we did we find spills or cracks? Is that a better way of look at it?
Yeah, of the 50 CDTs that have been done, I'd say about 90% of them are root intrusions. So there are cracks, they're finding roots, there are still having some offsets, and so the plumber would recommend, and we would recommend, we concur, but first we concur that you would do hydrogenning, or here's some corrective actions you can do to fix it, and then we encourage people to get that refits. Well, what's happening a lot of times is that during the SLAP program, they CCTV it, and they say, we're going to charge you $200. We'll waive that if we spend $8,000 repairing this on our lateral. And we're saying, well, first let's take a look at it and see if they're telling the truth or not. And that's why we implement this program, to make sure that the homeowners are being taken advantage of.
Thank you.
Alan, the program was conceived because we had probably 17 or 18 sanitary sewer overflows when Gary and I came on board in 2006. And part of them were due to pushed-in roots. Plumbers would push the roots into our system, which wasn't probably cleaned adequately. So there's been 1,000 people take advantage of that program over the 10 years. And we're dealing with a sub-part of the program, which is, I guess, the 50 that we're talking about, in this kind of maintenance program.
Yeah, as Director Eames mentioned, it's for many SSOs from our mainland, like you said, because the roots are being pushed down. As far as private SSOs go, we don't know because they're not required to report that to the state. So it's we don't know how many private SSOs are occurring, but it's also to help prevent public SSOs.
Well, at the time the program began, there was also 18 private sanitary sewer overflows, so there was a total of 35. We were reporting them back in 06.
We don't do that anymore.
Thank you.
You know, this will be the easiest one we have, because I put this on there to try to cover everything that Alan wanted, his questions.
So we need to look at it before, is that what
You
you're saying?
nailed it. You know, it's the same as 2, so it's identical to that, so we've covered it.
Okay, thank you.
Unless anyone else has anything else.
All right. Paul, will we turn this over to you now?
Sure, and I've got handouts. So, is the drought over? Right?
No. Not I'd like to see this.
We are, I'm going to let you guys decide based on the most recent information available. So, this is the U.S. Drought Monitor. The U.S. Drought Monitor is put out by NOAA, the National Atmospheric and Oceanographic Agency, which is a federal agency in conjunction with the University of Nebraska. So they do this you can get a map like this for the entire U.S., and they update it every week. And so they basically chart what areas are in drought, in which the soil and the streams are satisfy their criteria of drought. So if your area of the state is white, then there's clearly no drought. The yellow and the brown is kind of moderate drought, and then the red and the reddish brown is a severe drought. So these are 2 of the maps that they gave out. One just this week. This is the one on the right came out this last Thursday, yesterday, and then the one on the left was last January. So you can see that the extreme drought, in which caused the governor to declare a state emergency because of it, has really changed quite a bit, especially with the recent rains that we've had. And there is no area that is in that extreme drought, and the areas that are in moderate drought, drier than average, are in Southern California. So the water supply situation in Southern California, though, is very good. Southern California gets half of its water from outside of Southern California through basically the California Aqueduct and the Colorado River Aqueduct. So both those are going to be flowing full this year. And then Southern California has its own local resources and has done a tremendous amount of work in developing new water. Recycle water, which is an item we want to talk about next. Groundwater cleanup, ocean desalination in San Diego. There's all kinds of things. And really, 2 years ago, the state said, hey, the drought is so bad, we're going to demand that everybody cut their usage on an average by 25%. So that was just a hard requirement. Regardless of whether you had supplies for your area or not, they wanted a 25% drop. And then a year ago, when things got a little bit better, and this is a little bit better than it was the year previous, a year ago they came up with a kind of a stress test. You had to show that if there are 3 more years of extreme drought, the lowest year that we had, if you can, even with 3 more years of extreme drought, if you still have supplies to serve your community, then you don't need to have this mandatory conservation. 80% of the Southern California agencies were able to show that they had plenty of water supply for their community, even with 3 more years of severe drought. And so let's take Mesa Water and Costa Mesa as an example. We have our groundwater wells, which is where we get most of our water from. We have, always had an active conservation program and recycled water that serves the city. And we developed the MRF, or Mesa Water Reliability Facility, which goes below the clear groundwater to groundwater that has an amber tint. And we've cleaned that up. And, basically throughout this entire drought and going to the future, we have, a very good supply to meet all of our needs, regardless really of the hydrology or the rain or not that's going on. So next February, on February 8th, the state board is going to determine whether we need to continue on with the emergency drought regulations. Their staff has already proposed that they do. And I think the proposal is, hey, the winter's really not over until April 1st. That's typically when the snowpack is at its highest. And so, let's at least wait until April, May, June before we officially declare the drought over. So that's where we're at, and that's this first map here. How have we done locally in Orange County? As we know, it's been a very, very wet year. The light blue bars are average year, and the dark blue bars are what we've seen so far in this winter. So you can see our rainiest months are December, January, February, March. And in December, we were more than twice of average. In January, we were basically 3 times average. So we'll see if, even if we get average rain in February and March, it's going to be a really, really good year. Director?
Yeah, I'd like to insert a little something here. It looks wonderful to see all of this precipitation for us locally. But one of the problems that we have to realize, and this occurs even in the north, it occurs all up and down the state. Most of the dams are used for flood protection, and they're operated by the Army Corps of Engineers to a standard to maintain them. And so we end up seeing a lot of water in the Santa Ana River. And there's a lot of people that see that water and complain, well, the drought must be over because we're releasing all of that water. Well, they release that water because of the operation of the dams. They have to maintain a level behind the dam that would accept the next few storms. And so there's a lot of water coming down from Prado Dam, although they're storing more for Orange County Water District due to some negotiations with the Corps to raise the level of storage behind that dam. But it still, the dam was up to 512. They've got to bring it back down to 505, and that's an exception. And the normal operating level that the Corps operations guide calls for is 498, and so they're allowing this exception because of the wet year to store up to 505. So, but the point that I want to make is there's a lot of perception that the drought must be over because there's so much rain, and it's not, because we can't capture all of that water. We can capture a small portion of it, but the rest of it ends up going out the rivers up in the north area. I mean, there was an article in the paper today talking about the Yolo bypass and the great expansive amount of water in the Yolo bypass. But again, that water is just diverted to protect Sacramento from flooding on the Sacramento River. And so they divert the water through the Yolo bypass out to the bay, and so that's a lot of water that's not captured. There are proposals for reservoirs in the north, which would be terrific because it would allow the storage of water like this coming down the Sacramento to be diverted into a reservoir off stream. And that's a thing I think that we want to talk about a little bit, the California water fix. But I just wanted to make the point that, you know, there's a lot of perceptions out there on the part of people in the community that we should be doing something about capturing the stormwater. And with the operation of the flood protection of the dams that do that service, we just can't capture all of that water on these larger storms or these periods of large rainfall. And the folks at Orange County Water District do a terrific job of capturing as much as they can, but they can't capture it all. And so just remember that when people are talking about the drought and the drought being over, it's not over because all of this water that comes, we can't capture. And
yeah, that's especially true during a rainstorm. It's very hard to capture that huge chunk of water going down. But of all the water that does come down to Santa Ana throughout the year, 90% of that in total is captured. And that other 10% is all that stuff you see coming during those days that it's raining.
Paul, I have a question about your bar graph on
Sure.
page 2. So we have each one of those dark blue totals to give the Santa Ana center gauge close to 16 inches, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because Costa Mesa is now, because we had a meeting yesterday, talked about it in the Orange County Public Works. Costa Mesa is now, usually it's 5
Right.
inches, now we're over 12,
Right.
12.9. So
Yep.
this is a good total for us.
It's a great total. This is, you know, a banner year. It's really, really good. And for Southern California, what's as important as how much it's raining here is how much is it raining where we get a lot of our water, which is in the Colorado Basin and Northern California. That's the last graph there. And that's the snowpack. You know, you talk about capturing water and putting it in reservoirs. The biggest reservoir we have is that chunk of snow that's up there in the Sierras. And so far today, the Northern Sierra snowpack is today is 161% of average, and it's almost, you know, at our average a year. And then in the Colorado River Basin, it's also, you know, almost 50% above average. And then you can see here, this is kind of the trend throughout the year in the gray, and around the 1st of April is when you get your peak snow water pack, your snowpack, and then throughout the year it's kind of slowly released. And so that's why I think the state board is going to say, let's see what things are looking like in April, and then we'll have a discussion as to what's going on. Director Atkinson did mention the California water fix. Part of the real bottleneck in the whole state water system, from getting water from where it lands to where most of the people in the agriculture is the bottleneck through the Delta. And Governor Brown and the California administration are pushing hard for the California water fix, which are the tunnels underneath the Delta. And the state is asking for support. We know that Metropolitan Water District of Southern California has put out a letter of support. Our local wholesaler, which is MODOC, Municipal Water District of Orange County, our board just voted for a letter of support. And what we'd like to do is forward this letter to both of your organizations for your consideration to support the Delta fix, which really is the last unfinished piece of the California Water Project as it was envisioned many, many years ago. So I'll send that to Scott, to Tom, and
When's that letter due back?
It's about a month from now, so I think there's time to get it on your next.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, on your next thing.
Because we'll probably have a study session on February 14th. If we get it before that, then we could
Very
maybe
good.
take action on that.
Yep, we'll do that. So just want to let you know, Mesa Water, we've budgeted, and we're hoping that our community, even though we do have supplies, conserves at least 12%. With the rain so far this month, we're looking more like 35%, but for the water year, we are at about 12 to 13% conservation in the community, so that's all very good.
What's important to know too, the supply of water, this is largely the state water supply. We get it from snowpack and water. Mesa water, as many of you already know, we're 100% locally reliable. So while this is important to take note of, a lot of other agencies, particularly in South Orange County, get most of their water from these sources. We are protected by having the groundwater as well as the vertical water underneath. So it's important to kind of know as a state level what the issues are. And now it's raining, it seems good, but we're actually taken care of regardless of the drought. So conservation is kind of a two-sided coin.
So if I can ask a question to Paul,
Sure.
based on what Ethan said, I know we're pretty self-sufficient. We're very fortunate to have a basin underneath us. So and I understand the needs of Southern California. We need more water in general, but we are pretty self-sufficient. I know South County has difficulty because they don't have the same groundwater we do.
Correct.
So the tunnels, is that your support is to support for the rest of Southern California? Are we dependent on those tunnels here in Orange County and here in Costa Mesa?
Specifically, are we dependent on those tunnels? We aren't specifically. Kind of tangentially we are, because really you're only as reliable as your neighbors are. I mean, when there's a statewide drought, they say 25% conservation for everybody. And the replenishment of the groundwater basin does to a degree depend upon that water coming through the system. So in that case, it's probably about 25% of the replenishment of our groundwater basin does come through, either the Colorado or...
So we replenish it from freshwater sources as well as what goes through our sewer system?
Yes, yeah, the Santa Ana River is a big contributor to the groundwater basin. Like I said, 90% of that is captured and sunk into the ground. The Orange County Water District has the massive 100 million gallon a day water recycling project that takes that water, treats it to a very high level, and then sends it to the spreading ground. That goes to the benefit of all Orange County. And then, depending upon the year, maybe 25% comes from outside sources, half of that from the Colorado River, and half of that through the Delta that we're asking you guys to support.
Okay, not that I'm advocating not to conserve. I am. We should be, conservation-minded when we use water. But is it a double-edged sword that we're not adding more water into our groundwater replenishment system when we use less?
What happened to talk about, there's a big difference between indoor and outdoor water conservation. And so that's something at Waco that I brought up a few times to talk about, because most consumers don't realize that there's a huge difference. You're indoor, especially in a recyclable area like we are. I mean, 90% of that water, the wastewater, gets turned back into potable drinking water.
Indoor.
Right. So indoor water, it's actually important to use that. To tell people, hey, you don't have to be using it. Having a bucket at the bottom of your shower or anything else. We actually need that wastewater for the financial formulas that they put in place for that facility. So that's why we stressed when we were forced to conserve 20%. We focused mostly on outdoor water conservation, working with the city and everything else. But yeah, indoor water, it's actually one of those things.
Yeah,
but outdoor water is pretty much lost.
It's not generally. I mean, some of it will probably sink down, but who knows exactly how much.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Alan, I'm on the Groundwater Replenishment Board of Directors for Orange County Sanitation District, and currently it's 100 million gallons a day is what's getting recycled, and that satisfies 800,000 households in Orange County. We just approved an expansion of that to 130 million gallons a day, and that would be around 1 million people. So about roughly a third of the population will be dependent upon the groundwater replenishment of the water.
It's a great program, and it makes us all very, very reliable. And that kind of rolls into my next subject, which is recycled water. Prior to the groundwater replenishment system, the best way to get recycled water around, it was separate pipelines, the purple pipe, Title 22 water, recycled water. That's kind of what you think of when you think of recycled water, is a whole separate distribution system of purple pipe that sells recycled water that's not drinkable, but you can use it on turf, throughout the city. And we're part of a program in conjunction with Orange County Water District and the Sanitation District to distribute that. But that has really been surpassed now by the groundwater replenishment system, which takes almost all the sewage, especially after the expansion. It'll be everything in the central north Orange County will go to the 2 main plants that the sanitation district has, recycle that through reverse osmosis to a very high level, and then put it in the spreading grounds. And so that is a benefit, because not only can you use it on turf, it's drinkable, commercial, industrial, municipal use. It's available to everybody because everybody has a straw in the groundwater. And it's less expensive, and you don't have this whole second system of pipe through the streets, so it's a lot less infrastructure. But we do have part of the, we do get the purple pipe recycled water from the Orange County Sanitation District. That system serves about 4 million gallons a day, as opposed to what you're talking about, the groundwater replenishment system after the expansion. Instead of 4 million gallons, it's going to be serving 130 million gallons a day into the basin. So I just wanted to, again, pass out some of this.
Hey, Paul, is Costa Mesa Golf Course still using that water?
Yes, Costa Mesa Golf Course does.
Plenty of water there now.
I know.
Should have seen Madison Square yesterday.
Has anybody played the course since the rains?
Oh, we did last week for like 3 or 4 holes, but then we didn't want to damage the course, so we backed off. Because they were letting the carts up there when it was really wet.
Yeah, they always do.
So it's the flows into the Orange County treatment plants, sewer treatment plants, got to such a low point during the drought because people were conserving indoors that they actually, for a couple of months, had to slightly reduce the amount of the groundwater replenishment system. So we idled some facilities because of the low flows into the sewers. And they didn't have enough feedstock, basically, for that system. It was still operating at a very high level, but not at maximum. And that's really sparked a discussion amongst the water folks in Orange County is, hey, what has priority? Is it the groundwater replenishment system, which is going to be serving 130 million, or is it the purple pipe system? And so Orange County Water District basically said, hey, we're going to put priority on GWRS system. If we have to roll back, we're going to roll back on the purple pipe. And we really are not encouraging expansion of the purple pipe system. Now, our board had come up with this determination, I think about 8 to 10 years ago, that, hey, if we have a choice, we'd rather push that water into the groundwater because it serves everybody, it's drinkable, and all that kind of stuff. However, our position is, if a developer or if somebody really wants some recycled water, if they want to get leads points for their development, we will allow that. Orange County Water District is considering maybe not even allowing that. So it's the purple pipe system was good in its day, but it's really been surpassed by GWRS. Orange County Water District serves Fountain Valley, Costa Mesa, Santa Ana, Irvine, Newport Beach with this system. Mesa Water area has the most connections, the most sites that are hooked up, so this is where the purple pipe is, but we are not actively promoting that. We are actively supporting the expansion of the groundwater replenishment system.
Will that affect the water at Costa Mesa Golf Course?
No, it's still going to, the existing system is still going to be supported, and it will be supported in the future, yes. However, if there's another emergency drought declared and the flows into the sand district get to a place where they have to decide, are we going to cut back on this drinking water or on the turf water? If it's an emergency, statewide emergency, in that instance, there may be ramping back on the turf from the purple pipe. So this is just the two orange dots are the Orange County Sanitation District plants, and the little dashed line is the pipeline that goes up to Anaheim, where the spreading grounds are. And then if you kind of look at the next, the third page here, this is a real kind of cartoonish drawing of, that where it says recharge on the right, that's Anaheim, where it says MWRF, that's Mesa Water's Reliability Facility that goes below the clear and into the amber water. But you can see where spreading in Anaheim kind of supports the entire groundwater system. So that's just kind of a little primer on Mesa Water's recycled water system, and then kind of the global regional things that are going on, and some of the background on the decisions we've made as to whether the purple pipe should be expanded or not.
Okay. Is anyone from the public want to speak on that last couple items? Okay. Jim?
If I might. One of the things that I think it's important to note, the GWRS is terrific, and it provides a lot of recharge water for the basin. But the basin, Orange County Water District, still buys 50 to 60,000 acre feet a year from Metropolitan Water District, the imported water from up north. When we go into these dry or arid conditions, and a lot of times that water is not available, that's the time that having a desalination facility that would be able to provide that level of water is really important. And I don't know how many of you may have noticed that the Poseidon project here in Huntington Beach made our new President Trump's priority list of top 50 projects in the country. It was number 40 on that list, but it would really stabilize water supply here in Orange County, primarily by taking away the need or the dependence on that imported water from up north. And let's face it, the Colorado River is not always as reliable as it should be. I mean, there's a lot of management issues. You've seen how low Lake Mead is in the papers and so forth. And even with all of the water that they've had this year and all of the stuff, it's still only reaching the 1075 level, which is a trigger for a shortage. And it's a long ways from getting up to a level that would declare a surplus. So, this area's reliance on desalination is certainly one of the answers that can help us through these dry conditions when they occur. And so, I know there's a lot of talk out there. There's folks that are opposed to it. There's folks that are supportive of it. But just realize that it is a piece of the solution. It's not the entire solution, but it is a significant piece of the solution that we should all be looking at and considering as a positive thing for the area.
Well, I think it just gives us, a little bit of separation and insulation from Sacramento. I mean, just generally we see how Sacramento runs things, and if everything was done perfectly and the water was captured and we had reservoirs and everything else, we wouldn't need it. But the point is, Sacramento just we can't rely on them. I think for the future. So we've as a board have supported that. I know it's not really a topic on here, but a good point.
Well, even though it costs twice as much as the other water, what are you going to do if you need the water? It's irrelevant almost as to how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, exactly. No new source of water is going to be cheaper.
Exactly.
I mean, it's always going to be more.
Well, the Harris water is probably a third the price of.
No, I know. It's what, 900?
But it only take care of Orange County, northern Orange County needs. The desal project is important to the south.
Okay. You're on a roll.
Very good. Next one, election results. We just wanted to, talk a little bit about Measure TT, which we had on the ballot. It was just kind of an advisory vote. As we all know, Mesa Water commissioned a study to see if there would be savings if our district and your district combined. And, we feel that it was a very good study based on basically the financials in your CAFR and our CAFR. We believe that there are opportunities out there. And, wanted input from the citizens. The ballot measure read basically should the two districts consider merging, and the result was a 55% vote in the affirmative. And I think both of our agencies kind of outreach to the people prior to that vote. So we are interested. Anytime you guys are interested in going, we sent you a letter. I know that you've responded saying at this time you're not interested in discussing consolidations, but you would be interested in talking about shared services, which I think is positive. And so we look forward to working with you guys going forward to see what we can do for our basically shared public that we have.
Yeah, I think the topic of the shared services, I know you and Scott have had some conversation, and I think Tom's been involved as well. So really our stance has been, if we're going to look at the shared services, we need to get all the parties involved, and City of Costa Mesa is obviously a big part of that. So that's where our board, not to debate Measure TT, obviously we have differences of opinion on things and what the process should be. And our stance has been pretty much to let the MSR process through LAFCO dictate the direction. We should have conversation on that. We will have conversation on that. I look forward to that. But I think at this point, the shared services is something that involves all of us, and we need to move forward with that.
Well, I think it would be a good step maybe if we could get our boards together to start talking about that, because I know our board wants to do it in the open, not, an ad hoc or anything like that. We want to get everyone on the same page. And, the MSR process through LAFCO is, kind of the MSR light every 5 years. They won't proactively go in and really look at what any potential savings might be. And and obviously this is contentious. We kind of have different differences of opinions, and that's okay. But I think there's some savings. It's kind of an outdated system, and so we need to at least look at it and just say, okay, hey, look, what can we be doing? There's millions of dollars out there. If we were to work together in some way, shape, or form, and whatever level or spectrum that is, we can talk through that. But I think we owe it to the ratepayers who voted on this. A very bland question. Who did? So 55% said, hey, they want us to at least look into it. So, and I think if we can just have some preliminary steps and meet together as boards and, maybe, just talk through these things over time, I think we can maybe have some savings that we owe the ratepayers. So I think that would be a good first step if you guys are open to that.
John?
What are the shared services that you all have in mind?
We really haven't.
We talked about. I know. We talked in this. I know, Roger, I talked to some staff, and they approached us about helping with the storm cleaning. We have backer trucks that can help you with your storm drain cleaning. Mesa Water has a radio system in their vehicles, so maybe we can piggyback on their radios, There's, well, right now we're doing shared service right now. We have 7 of our generators stored at your yard, and so just charge it back in return. You get to use those generators at the Snoopy house.
We sit and other events too. We've been using them and making sure they're ready for you when you need them. They need to be running probably $10,000 a year on a variety of different needs to rent generators. It makes a lot of sense.
So that's one.
There's a few of others. I can't.
I think you guys did pretty bottom down with your public safety vehicles. So that that was the idea. Is just to throw everything on the wall, see what sticks, and see what works.
It's cooperation, basically.
And a long time ago when we started this liaison, we had said, okay, if you're going to dig up then we need to relocate our plans and see what we can do down there.
Right.
Maybe we were gonna do it after you dig up, because it used to be on Fairview Street especially, that we would dig up and be taken care of, then the next agency would come in, and then everybody'd say, my God, are they ever gonna quit? You know,
Yeah.
so this is one thing that we can do. We can say, okay, we're gonna do this, and we're going, you know, anyone else that wants to get in there?
Kind of like surgery. Once you're in there, you might as well fix it.
That's right, that's right.
You know, we could also look at that piggyback stuff, you know, where you go out
Yes.
and bid on a project,
Yeah.
you know, larger the volume.
Talk about that.
Yeah, we do a lot of work with the city when they're doing street improvements, and that causes the water lines to be moved. We'll have you guys do it basically, and we'll reimburse you, because getting one contractor out there under, you know, one contract is much better than having multiple contractors. That's more.
I think remarkably, this group has, you know, you've expected that for years, and it's happening quietly, day in and day out, good coordination of things that used to be embarrassing, you know, 10, 20 years ago when, you know, we would just not coordinate and have two separate projects, but now that's working from our point of view really well.
Yeah, the city has ongoing infrastructure meetings. We all show up and coordinate with this group and a broader group also.
I think administratively, we all deal with certain topics. I think the staff probably should meet jointly, because they have needs, you know, that we really don't even know about. I think they're shared services at different levels. Administratively, you're talking about contracts, you're talking about policies and procedures, planning. That's what we do. You know, and I think there's a golden opportunity to talk at different levels.
Yeah, and we do. You know, we have quarterly meetings, organized meetings that we invite everyone to participate. And then, as needed, based on projects, we do get together and work out solutions where we do joint projects.
So it's a good government story. If anyone's looking for a good government story out there, it's quietly.
Anyone else got a good book?
Those things don't always get reported.
I was going to say, you got to find a good reporter. You know I can get to this one.
He hasn't fallen asleep over there, so that's a good sign.
All right.
Headline.
The next item on is in terms of the Newport Mesa School District. We've talked from our standpoint about inviting the Newport Mesa District to these liaison meetings. And I think we just kind of want to float that out a little bit to see. I mean, they're
Our largest user.
They're your largest user, absolutely, and probably one of our largest users as well. So we were hoping that I think you guys are hosting the next one.
We could definitely do it. My thought crossed my mind, we do have our separate meetings with them, but that could be part of this or vice versa. It's really, the bottom line is your call. Elected officials, this is your opportunity to talk and get together. Whatever you think works well, we'll do it.
Right. I mean, I think it's a good idea. Where we kind of work together as a slice of the school district, and then, you know, the liaison meetings with the school district are about a lot of things that will pertain to your groups. But I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense.
And realistically, we're not sure if they're going to respond favorably to coming to this or not, but we hoped with you know, your or your agreement that we go out, at least apply it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
So how should we follow up on that? Should we send an email, maybe Scott or something? I know it's the sanitary district's main interest, maybe.
Do you want us to?
Yeah, that would be great. Just maybe email CCS. It could be pretty simple. It's, but yeah.
Oh, reach out, just remind no problem.
Yeah. Reference the bagels.
Yeah.
Have food, they'll come.
All right. Item 8, do we really have to talk about item 8? I mean,
I think, you know, the press has done a very good job reporting kind of what's happening, but I'd be happy to give a few updates. John might have some. Are you kidding?
Being a Rams fan, I have to.
Oh,
and my sister's a big Charger fan, so
But some of us are Chargers.
I think we're so we're working with them on a regular basis, just had a meeting with them yesterday. They're looking to, again, in terms of orientation, the LA Times, the old LA Times building to the east of that is a property that has 3 existing buildings and a vacant, about 3-acre parcel there across the street from IKEA in terms of an orientation. So they have been working with that property owner for quite a while and have negotiated a 10-year lease. They've signed that 10-year lease. That's going to be their home, their headquarters, their practice facilities, and their training facilities. So they'll be there every day, except when they're either driving to LA for 8 days, 8 games a year, just 8 days a year, or they're in some other city playing somebody else those 8 days a year. So I don't know what's 365 minus 16 is, but they're going to be in Costa Mesa here, and players involved in the community, at the local schools, at going to restaurants, and just a part of our community. And I think that we've heard from them quite clearly that they want to be part of the fabric of Costa Mesa. So it's kind of exciting, pretty exciting.
Do we know if they're planning on staying beyond the 10 years? Is that did they get options on that, or is it just temporary holding until?
Yeah, there is some discussion about that. What we do know is it's for 10 years. They're going to be here, and will that be their permanent home? Will that work for them? I think they like the general location, because otherwise they would have went closer to LA or stayed near San Diego or something. But I think they like that area. I think we're going to make them feel welcome. I think I think they're going to like the area. Could they move somewhere else to a permanent site? Do they want to build their own facility to meet all their needs for the long term? They might. This was an existing building that they're obviously renovating. It's about a 95,000 square foot building. And so they're moving quickly. They're going to submit plans. It doesn't go to the planning commission. It doesn't go to the council. Businesses every day come in and have ideas for renovating an existing building, and that's what they're doing. This is unusual where they're wanting more open space than more parking. So usually we're wrestling folks about, hey, you want to eat into the landscaping for more parking. They want to eat into the parking to provide more field space. And so it's a good thing overall, we think. And
We're going to need another steakhouse.
Yeah.
It's all for Mr. Smith.
He's a big guy.
What about Costa Mesa Chargers? Is that?
No, I think they.
Los Angeles Chargers of Costa Mesa. So my only update is Father Augustine put on Facebook that Philip Rivers visited St. John the Baptist.
Oh,
He's got 8 kids.
Yeah.
5 of them are school age. So that's where our kids went.
Yeah.
He lives currently where my sister lives in Rancho Bernardo, and Rivers lives close to where, so she sees him at Bed Bath and Beyond all the time.
Go to the shopping.
It's like Frank the Tank.
If I play quarterback like that, I'd do a lot of shopping. All right. Next, then, there's nothing else. Mr. Mosher, you're the last public member. Anything else? All right. Then we'll adjourn, and March 17th.
Tell me this. Great.
And please do, if you haven't had a chance to see the facility, please take a tour, especially our emergency center. Everybody might be interested in seeing that. So, thank you all for being here. Thank you. Appreciate it.